Okay. So, had you heard of Post-Truth before today?
Yes, I have.
You had. And what had you heard?
That it's the Oxford Dictionary's Word of the Year.
Yep. And do you think that we're living in a post-truth age?
I think that's too cliched. It depends on the meaning of post-truth. Having a bit of an academic background, of course we need to define our terms more precisely.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that this whole post-truth nonsense has emerged as a consequence, as a sort of continuation of the emergence of what's called postmodern thinking.
Yeah.
Which I think has been and is a very important very important development in intellectual life.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, and for some time, there's sort of two strands, which I think I've heard one guy refer to them as both destructive, constructive forms of postmodern thinking and destructive forms.
Yeah.
And I think this destructive interpretation of postmodern thinking has been with us for quite a long while. What people refer to now as post-truth is sort of a shallow and cheap variant of the destructive form of postmodern thinking.
So what do you see as the relationship between postmodernism and post-truth? Do you think it's sort of another name for the same thing, or...?
No, well, post-truth is it's a sort of modern mass media term, and in particular it's a political term.
Yeah.
And it's a variant of the other political phrase that's cropped up in the era of Trump, of alternative facts.
Yes. So
it's bullshit masquerading as some kind of legitimate truth.
Yes.
And the definition of post-truth that some people use is that it doesn't matter whether it's objectively true, it's whether it feels right or not, which makes it right.
Yeah.
And I just think that's shallow, simplistic and stupid.
Okay.
Which, so much of the so-called post-truth arguments are. But in some ways its roots can be traced back to postmodern thinking that says all knowledge is relative.
Yes.
And that there are no absolute truths.
Yes.
Which then, through this destructive postmodern path, became anything I believe to be true is equally valid to anything you might believe to be true.
Yeah.
To which I say bullshit. A simple example of this, which Ken Wilber was always very good on this sort of stuff. I have no hesitation in saying that Hitler and Nazism was bad.
Yes, that's a good point.
And it's a moral judgment, but I'll make it firmly and with conviction.
Yes.
But the alternative truths that people like Trump and others, the Brexit people, whoever, come up with on a regular basis, and the whole disinformation campaign that was such a big part of the US election, it's just made up stuff. And we invent this phrase post-truth to somehow lend credibility to what is just made up crap.
Can you see any positive angle? Do you think there's anything, because it's been argued that one of the positives about post-truth is that it kind of helps create a level platform whereby, voices that might not have been heard before can now get an audience through like the internet?
No, I don't, because part and parcel with this whole post-truth nonsense is the delegitimisation of, genuine expertise.
Yes, definitely.
And I was listening to something the other day that was saying, if you're having a heart attack, you want a cardiologist,
Yes.
not a poet. And the same can be said for our politics and the decisions, big, important, complex decisions that have to be made.
Yeah.
And you want people with knowledge, who are well informed,
Yeah.
and with experience, and are
Yes.
able to make a rational analysis
Yes.
of the issues,
Yeah.
rather than just pulling some knee-jerk string that touches people's prejudices
Yeah.
and gets the crowd chanting,
Yes.
but has no substance to it in terms of coherent argument and analysis.
So since the rise of post-truth, well, by which I guess I just mean the rise of what's considered to be not, the untruth, in that, like, all the false news and everything. Do you personally trust authority less now, do you think?
No, I don't think so, but that's the caveat on that, is that I didn't trust it much last year or 10 years ago.
Okay.
But again, being a bit of an academic, you say, do I trust authority?
Yeah.
Now, the word authority has to be understood. Authority for me is not your status in terms of where you sit in the pecking order.
Yes.
Authority, it's derived from the word author. Do you speak with authority? Do you speak with the capacity to be able to talk and write sensibly about this?
Yes.
Are you capable of authoring an idea?
Yes.
And I continue to respect good expertise.
Okay.
But I also continue, as I said for many years, do not have respect for phony charlatan pretenders,
Okay.
claiming some sort of post-truth legitimisation for their nonsense.
Okay. And what do you think we have most to fear from a post-truth world?
Fascism.
Wow, okay, yeah.
Ultimately, in a political sense, and for me, post-truth is very much a political word. It's not an intellectual or academic word.
Yeah, although I think it's becoming more taken up in academic.
Only in a cliched way, and only as something that you would critique. I hope there's not any authentic intellectual or academic that is trying to claim the phrase post-truth as a legitimate intellectual position.
I think there are people who are looking at how, like, the effect of this on people, if you know what I mean, like the impact of post-truth and what.
Well, one possible impact, which is perhaps wishful thinking on my part, is that when we come up with phrases like post-truth that become the Oxford word of the year, and it slips into the sort of common parlance, it's just a jargon word that many people are talking about rather than just in academic ivory towers, that the nonsense of it can be exposed. In a similar way, perhaps a good example of this, I think one of the sort of areas of post-truth nonsense that's surfaced in the last few years is the sham called Facebook. And I think even just 12 months ago, certainly a couple of years ago, people were much more willing to accept Facebook as some worthy, legitimate organisation in our society.
Yes.
But it's been exposed over the last 12 months or less. That in fact they have been they've played a really big role in the spreading and perpetuation of post-truth falsehoods. So I'm hoping the exposure of what Facebook really is, as a spreader of false information, often malicious information, quite deliberately spreading falsehoods, that Facebook has been quite happy to be party to. I hope that is now in the process of being exposed, and that it is seen as a fraudulent enterprise.
And also that people care, because that's the thing, isn't it, in the post-truth world, is that it can be exposed, but does anyone actually care?
And hopefully we will reawaken to the virtue and importance of authenticity. And
what do you think it would take for that to happen? How would we do that?
I think societies all around the world are under threat of we can use various words: authoritarianism, despotism, proto-fascism that could very easily become full-on fascism.
Yeah.
I think that's a very real risk in the world today.
Yeah.
And our defence or our protection against that is to reclaim our authenticity, to reclaim truth that is valid, and more importantly, to reclaim the criteria by which we judge truth.
Yes.
And that means we need to let go of this post-truth nonsense.
Okay, so my next question was, what could we do to make a post-truth world better? But it sounds like you just think we need to get rid of it.
Well, that's a bit of an oxymoron to me.
Yeah, I can see that.
Better.
Yeah.
We can make the world better by bursting the bubble.
Yeah. Okay.
That is post-truth.
Yeah.
And putting it in the dustbin of history where it belongs.
And okay, with that in mind, that you're clearly not a fan of post-truth, couldn't you give me an example of something that is a truth for you? So like one true thing for
back
you.
when I was actually a sort of practicing academic, I was involved in very interesting intellectual exercises, discussions, writing, things like that.
Yeah.
Which, to go back to what we were talking about at the beginning, the more constructive path of postmodern thinking. And I was a strong argument. I was strongly in favour of the argument that says we need to move beyond the notion of objective truth as the only valid truth.
Okay.
And I was arguing for the legitimacy of subjective knowledge.
Yes.
As a valid and important kind of knowledge.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is part of the distortion of the postmodern argument. By wanting to validate subjective knowledge, that somehow links into the notion of post-truth, where whatever you feel to be true is true. No, that's not what it is. We need to get back to... unfortunately, in the time when I was engaged in this, I said objective and subjective have become so contaminated, so loaded. Objective is good, subjective is bad. And I was trying to push through that sort of prejudice by saying those words are so loaded we should stop using them. I prefer the terms first-person knowledge and third-person knowledge.
Okay.
They're two different ways of knowing about something.
Yeah.
Both. It's not an either or. It's a both and.
Okay.
But they're just different ways of knowing. And I think we need to get back to, and I'm sure it's happening in places, but we need to get back to that authentic postmodern critique where we are debating valid ways of knowing beyond the narrow notion of scientific truth that has dominated the last couple of centuries, and we can reinvigorate first-person knowledge as part of our intellectual discourse.
Yeah.
But let's do it honestly. Let's do it with authenticity. Let's do it with integrity, and not cheap, cliched phrases like post-truths that are just, that's a noisy track. That has emerged as little more than political propaganda.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.